Are you feeling a little lost through this college essay writing process? Are you having trouble coming up with an idea for your college essay? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you a 5-step process on how you can brainstorm, how you can select, and how you can start writing that best college essay of yours right now. Starting with step 1, you want to brainstorm all of your external activities and internal traits that you have. External activities can be your achievements, your recreation, like extracurriculars, your interests, hobbies. It could even be a memorable experience or event. Anything external that's happening or happened in your life should be written down. On the other hand, internal traits are really the types of descriptions of who you are as a person. So this could be related to your personality, could be related to your own dreams and goals, could be around your motivations, or could be even like habits and traditions that maybe you have yourself or even as a family. This is really important as this is going to be very holistic and give you a holistic picture of who you are as a person. And by the end of this, you should ideally have around 20 or more things written down. And don't worry about it getting weird after the 20 or 30 thing. In fact, the weirder I would say oftentimes is where the best reflection comes out. If you can really draw out all the things that make you unique, that is going to be a great starting point. The second step is going to be charting those external activities on an X and Y axis, based on how common it is and how impactful it is. So uncommon versus uncommon, this is basically determined by the amount of people who tend to write about the same topic. So those tend to be around sports, those tend to be around music or extracurriculars like speech and debate, Model UN. There are a lot of people in these activities and oftentimes they'll write about them. So I would tend to shy away later on when looking at these activities that are common, just because it's a bit more competitive. Now, if you are someone who, loves to play football and you're sort of the star quarterback and you're thinking about joining the D1 football team and really pursuing a career out of that, okay, maybe there's, some room for you to to be a bit more special in that case when you're writing about football. But for most other people who are just, participating in these sorts of activities, it's better to put that information in a different part of the application as opposed to your personal essay. Now, in terms of high impact or low impact, this is really defined by two things. One is whether or not this activity connects to different parts of your life, and two, whether or not it significantly changed the way you approach life or that you look at life. So this is really important because high impact can be defined very differently by different people, even if it's the same activity. For example, let's say cooking. For one person, cooking could be an essential part of how they connect to their family, how they inspire and create new things in their life. It could also be more than just a hobby, but an actual professional aspiration to some degree later on. So that cooking right there, even though it's quite a common activity, it could still be very high impact for that person. But then take someone else where, cooking is something that they do occasionally, but it doesn't really make a big difference in their life. And that's going to be very important. So to define your activities by how high impact they are to your specific life is very important. At the end of this exercise in step 2, what you'll have is you essentially have a 2x2. You'll be able to identify what are the common activities that are low impact, the uncommon activities that are low impact, the common activities that are high impact, and probably the best of all, the uncommon activities that are also high impact. Usually that top right corner is really where you want to centralize a lot of your focus. But be aware that oftentimes these activities can be dynamic, right? As you think about it more, you might realize that, hey, actually this activity is actually connected to different parts of my life much more than I thought it was upon initial look. So when you take those activities, make sure you take it with a sense of fluidity, that many of these activities could change location as you begin to think and reflect more deeply upon them. Step number 3 is then applying the SPARC filter for those high impact activities. This is really important because the SPARC method essentially stands for seizing, pursues, asks, risks, and creates. What this method does is show you how you particularly demonstrated a key attribute that colleges are looking for. So when they talk about seizing an opportunity really shows your proactiveness and leadership. So if you had selected an example, how did you seize some sort of opportunity, right, within that activity that made you stand out? Pursuing is oftentimes showing the grit or the perseverance that you did to pursue a particular event, even despite its challenges. This is really important because colleges want to see your determination and how you approached difficult problems and overcame them. Asks. Learning and curiosity is a key component of college education and generally the admissions process. How did you ask certain key questions during a particular activity that made you change the way you act or maybe change the way you approach that activity? They could also be questions around ambiguity. You know, it could be you were debating between one aspect and was a trade-off with another aspect. So how did you resolve this conflict as well can be a great way to shape your story related to that activity. Risks. There's always risks, right? With many of your activities, whether it's physical, mental, or just an opportunity cost, right? If you do one thing, you can't do another thing. So what are the risks that you took and how did you mitigate and overcome those risks, right? Is a great other way to tell the story. And finally, creation. Well, creation is one of the best ways to display your leadership, your interests, right? Your talent and technical expertise. So talk a little bit on how you created something within that activity. It could be you started a new club. It could be you created a new product. It could be something you created a new program. So any of this can really be a wonderful way to explore in more depth what that uncommon, high impact general activity is, right? And really flesh out those details. The fourth step is going to be around spider mapping your internal traits onto that activity. So as you may remember from step one, we listed out essentially your internal personality, your motivations, your dreams. These are all small parts of who you are as a person and as part of your application that you want to display within this essay. And so what you want to do is you want to take all those small facts and really draw and connect them to the activity that you've previously identified from steps 2 and 3. That'll give you a really more holistic picture on how you want to write your essay and what you really want to convey. This is often what I call in my reviews the secondary theme. The secondary theme is something that's really critical about who you are as a person that you want to display through that external activity that you've brainstormed. The fifth part is thinking a little bit around how you're going to begin your story and how you're going to end. Oftentimes writing, this is, the strongest barrier to writing, which is just not knowing where to begin and also not knowing how to end. So when thinking about beginning, what I would recommend is a couple things. One is to really reflect upon all the movies, books, theater, screenplays, any of that sort of art form that you really enjoy. And think about why you enjoyed it. How did they begin their story and how did they end their story? And what sort of emotions did that make you feel, right? A couple ways to actually put this into practice. So for the beginning portion, there's generally 2 ways to really start a beginning that's very emotional and captures the reader's attention. The first of which is starting off with the conflict. In other words, as a reader, you're going to be thrown into the conflict, and as a reader, you're trying to figure out how did we come to this situation, and how are we going to resolve it. So starting with the conflict first at the very beginning, maybe a couple sentences could be a great way to start. Another way to start is start with the ending first. So start with the conclusion, some sort of learning that you came up with conclusion as the sort of first 2 sentences, and then start to explain the reader how you came to that conclusion. That could be a great entryway as well. Now, in terms of ending your essay, I think there's 4 ways that generally are pretty effective. The first of which is called callbacks. So, similar like what we talked about, if you start with a conclusion statement at the beginning of your essay, make sure you end with the same sort of conclusion statement. So this is a callback. Basically, it's a full circle ending that really, wraps up that essay quite nicely. The second of which is ending with an action. So maybe your story is around you doing a particular activity, right? And the way you describe the activity, right, will use a lot of, physical language, and maybe that's actually how you end the essay. And why that's effective is because it leaves the reader kind of suspended and wanting more. They want to know, how was that action resolved, right? And that oftentimes, that sort of mystery is a great way to end off the essay. The third way to end an essay is around a forward-looking statement. So, after you've described and summed up a particular experience or activity, what are you looking forward to next in the future? And how does that relate, to what you've discussed in this essay? That forward-looking nature shows, not only a sense of maturity and, what you're excited about in the future, but also about how that relates right back to your original topic. And finally, the last way to end your essay is what I call the bow tie method. So if in your essay you've described a lot of things that connect to your life, the bow tie method basically is a 1 or 2 sentence summary of how all of these ultimately connect together and what they say about you. You're essentially wrapping up nicely. Your essay is connecting all of these different parts of your life and your themes together into, a very concise 1 or 2 sentences. That's a great way to make the reader feel like, okay, this essay has concluded and I've really gotten to finish this piece as it is. Hope you guys liked this video. I hope this has given you a little bit more thoughts on how to brainstorm your essay, how to filter through all of your ideas, and how to begin and start and end your essay. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and we'll catch you on the next one.